Sup everybody, this is Karak with ACG, and it's my continuing mission to bring you reviews that aren't 2 minutes long or filled with sponsored bullcrap. What happens when you get a game whose main claim to fame is nothing more than sending someone's brains flying out the back of their head like the world's nastiest bird escaping an open cage? That's right, you make a second game, and hey, maybe a third, and in this case, a fourth, as in Sniper Elite 4. Developed by Rebellion, Sniper 4 comes out on February 14th for the Xbox One, PS4, and PC. Let's see how it did, shall we? As always, if you like the video, maybe subscribe. So here's my review for Sniper Elite 4. Mike Tyson head punches, scaring an enemy force so bad they hire magicians, and the elegance of an elevated position's execution. And of course, graphics are up first. For every step forward Sniper Elite 4 takes away from its older siblings, it steps back a bit, like it's afraid to be on its own. Technically, it's all over the place, and while the levels are indeed massive, and the lighting's actually fairly well done, it's the poor textures that really make you sit back and finally think to yourself, so now I know what it's like covering my face with Vaseline and trying to play video games. Lack of truly well done and just detailed textures actually abound in Elite 4, and if it wasn't for some specific items and places where they look good, you could easily think this entire game was an expansion for a prior title with just an upgraded graphics engine. Also, apparently between games, everybody spent time in Hollywood because their facial details completely Botoxed out, and when they all start talking and their lip syncing doesn't match up because that's also poorly done, it can look like a meeting of fucking mannequins. And unfortunately, all of this put together sadly makes the entire game look cheap, which it isn't, both in price and in overall content. For example, the big locker room brag from Rebellion right now is that the smallest level in Sniper 4 is 3 times as large as the largest level in Sniper 3. First thing, yes, that is absolutely true. To a magnificent degree, it also impacts gameplay. Twisting and turning paths towards Italian villas as you seek out that one special kill shot are a sight to behold, and the level structure, while not perfect, really does nail the feeling of complexity in lived-in locations that do a great deal to make these massive enemy fortifications feel like somewhat real places in the distant past. Now, when you enter a level and truly get a grasp of how massive they can be, it's a bit awe-inspiring and a bit, oh shit, I need to drop a couple pounds because I need to get across this thing. Rebellion has added some more bells and whistles as well, and of course you still get the patented X-ray cam as you watch the questionably sized life organs inside enemies explode as the great ship Remington decides to take a voyage through a bad guy's bowels. But what I like about this is Rebellion said, you know what, when you're throwing people to the death or palm striking someone in the head so hard it's like they're the largest champagne cork in the world, we need X-rays there too, and now you have them. Revel in up-close reverse construction of the anatomy of mankind. And I ain't gonna lie, it's actually awesome. Now, on the i7 at 4.2 and the 1080, I was able to actually get 60 frames at all times at 1440p ultra settings, except for a bit of times where there was some loading here or there. And once again, we do see a company letting us adjust the title to our heart's content. Downsampling, tessellation, and obscurance are all here and can actually do some wonders to improve the sometimes questionable overall look of the game. Now, luckily, game-ready drivers will be available day one for folks, so I hope a couple of these smaller issues are fixed. As a complete package, Sniper 4 is sometimes excellent and sometimes serviceable, and while its presentation game overall has been leveled up, it needs to spend a couple more upgrade points in textures, shadows, and possibly some detail on people's faces, because damn, while everything else seems to be level 4, there are a couple things in here still at level 1. Sound, music, and voice.
Carl, I heard you talk to an angel.
Eventually.
Listen now.
We have mutual enemies. We'd like to help you dispose of them.
I would like that too, my friend. You can begin with Piero Capo, the leader of the Black Brigade. The man is a barbarian.
Is that so?
The monastery.
And of course, you guys know me, I always do sound first. Now, gun sounds are fairly typical with a bit of variation on shots and layering so they don't sound like shot number 33 from some sample DVD. Unfortunately, overall, the guns just don't have the largest range, and even the occasional shotguns and massive rifles don't really drop down to that low sonic boom that you expect or have experienced if you've ever been around something like that. Now, that being said, the positional audio also wasn't the best. There were some issues with occlusion at times, and it turned off instead of just low. Normally, what should be behind you or behind a rock shouldn't just not make a sound. But a couple times, explosions or gunshots made no sound at all. Probably just a bug, and I'm sure it can actually pretty much be patched. Now, one of the things the game does well is environmental sounds to add a nice sonic layer, especially because there will be long moments you won't be doing anything but waiting for that one Nazi bastard to turn his peepers northward so you can shoot him out of his face. All manner of insects, vehicle noises, birds chirping, and folks moving around are sampled well, and it really did add to the atmosphere. And of course, that brings us to music. Now, this is a very subdued soundtrack, sticking to the background for great lengths of time, and then when it does, it comes up and it's like a wind instrument or maybe some other violins or strings or something native to the scene, and then it fades back. While cutscenes have some suitable Michael Bay moments, overall, this soundtrack is actually a been there, can't remember that kind of event. But hey, you know what? It's a sniper game, not Ride of the fucking Valkyries. Voice. So here we go. As the main character, Carl Fairborn, the voice actor Tom Clark Hill does a fairly good job delivering the lines from a person who's basically walked hand in hand with more folks through the fiery gates of death than Social Security. It's a gravelly thing, it's very deep and bassy, and it's well done, though it's not as much emotionally driven ever, as occasionally he just seems like he might be slightly happy about something or slightly pissed about it. Sadly, even that level of performance does not mean that all the other characters do that. When meeting up with folks who give you side jobs prior to starting the missions, you will hear some doozies. The only thing I can imagine is some of these guys were sitting down, watched a YouTube video on how to do an accent, and didn't really realize that it was a joke video. Everything else across the board, pretty much different levels of mediocre. Gameplay. So as I said before, you play as Carl Fairborn, man of action, a proxy for the mighty arm of the Allies in missions so secret they don't even flag top secret. Now, they also don't apparently pay that much, as missions start with you riding a podunk crappy boat into a port filled to the brim with enemies. But that's okay, because obviously folks can't help themselves, so in walks Carl all cross-armed and stern looks and takes shit over. Now, the story tells a basic tale of hunting down one of the baddest men working for the Nazi hierarchy, but deviates throughout its main campaign with a good bit of political drama involving rebels and traitors to causes and Carl crossing his arms again during a cutscene. Now, each map starts with you at your base camp where you talk to a couple folks, cross your arms, call in the radio to get some more missions, and then head out in your podunk boat. Now, as I said before, the maps are massive, and it's your job to fulfill their missions in any order you desire. But if you finish the main quest first, sometimes that mission actually ends. It depends on which level you're on. So you may want to finish the side missions where you need to find incriminated evidence against local religious leaders before you march up to Castle Don't Come In and shoot everyone inside. Now, this caveat aside, Sniper has all the gore and bits and awesome gameplay we expect. X-ray attacks, sneaking, stealthing, shooting, stabbing, and showcasing levels of internal violence so great that when you're done, no one's even going to be able to tell that a human was there, let alone somebody died from your gunshot. I swear to shit, I think one time I hit a dude so hard, his heart exploded through his head. Or that was his prostate. At 1,200 feet per second, it is very hard to tell those things. Now, as you guys know, I test all difficulties from the easiest for folks just getting into these kind of titles, all the way to the hardest for folks who like their windage rough. And I have to say, I am stoked to see that custom difficulty is packed in here once again, and has a couple more options across the board. This is a great solution for folks who are finding one particular level difficult or too easy due to something like enemies having not enough health or being too aggressive. Now, on easy, the game won't hold your hand, but bullet drop is gone, and for the most part, it's like hunting with a goddamn laser pointer. Ramp that up to authentic, and without almost any alerts or UI bits, your first shot can feel a little bit like a live experiment of the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, and the requisite feeling of success moments after that, when you've adjusted, is actually pretty much the same. It's actually very well done, and each difficulty level prepares and molds you for the one above it. Now, sadly, this isn't always coupled to successful AI. In fact, I've poached eggs more intelligent than this. The worst thing is that it's not a continual problem. I've been flushed out of almost every damn location in the game, and not without a fair amount of dangerous territory to run through, because enemies don't just aim right at you like a 21-gun salute if they're chasing you down. Some will stay just to the offset right or left, so if you try to circle back around them, there's a good chance you're just going to die from the left and the front instead of just dying. That's when it works, but when it doesn't, enemies can lose you right when they're standing in front of you, or you'll see some characters get stuck on the scenery and then teleport somewhere else. Just boom, magic time. This is especially disconcerting as it leaves the player with the worry that those situations might also be happening when they're not looking. Listen, this could all just be Nazi occult magic. Who knows? I hope to see those issues fixed though, especially in a later update, or a later update to add more spells. Either or. Now, not all sad news here. The officer system, which is a basic leader squad AI system, actually works very well. And if you enter a spot with a couple leaders and some AI, their tactics, abilities, and damn near stonewall determination is a massive hurdle to success. On the other hand, take a leader out, and sometimes you can send them scurrying, or at the very least, watch them look on in horror as their leader's head turns into a reverse fleshy jigsaw puzzle right in front of them. Seriously, try to put that shit back together, smarty pants. Now, that being said, where Sniper Elite positively excels like no other is its breadth of content in each of its levels. Verticality is soaring, offering really incredibly varied routes from one side of the map to the other. And with side missions just begging you to explore more of the Isle of Dying Dudes, it can take over an hour to finish a level on normal difficulty and much, much more on hardcore, though that shortens up in some levels and, of course, depending on player skill. Now, playing through the map, it's hard to pick my favorite, but there's something about the most dangerous game being played out in forests, where some dude like a 6-point buck puts his head up and you see it break the horizon and then boom, pain, then sound, then death. Now, as with all sniper games, we also have a massive number of weapons throughout the game to unlock, each with their own unlockable skins and upgrades. Now, the upgrades come as you perform special achievements with those weapons in particular, upgrades that add more damage or a better zoom or less recoil. Additionally, with so many different kinds of weapons, you can really get creative in your killing here. Slip a tripwire into a doorway, run into the back of the room, fire a shot. That calls enemies in, only to watch them get whittled away by 5 pounds of shredded metal and bad tidings. Or my personal favorite, which is put a landmine at the bottom of a ladder and then start hucking grenades onto the second floor and watch as I successfully stopped half a dozen Nazi commanders from ever dancing again. The more reactive AI, despite some of its issues, will also trick you. They will use every single bit of the environment that they can against you, and that's when it takes a considerable amount of patience to really wait something out, because you may want to take that shot early because, hey, you know what, it's there. But if you don't, use, like, let's say, sound masking, which are items in the game making a tremendous amount of sound that stops folks from finding where you're shooting, then you're most likely going to be overrun moments later. Now, while apparently Carl is a sniper so elite that he forgets damn near everything taught him in the previous game so that he can relearn it all again here, it's that exciting infancy of your skills at first, as you are just sort of getting back to grips with the gameplay, that allows for the continued growth and excellence of some of the more eccentric situations you're going to find yourself in that really become memorable later on. 1 second you might be strapping a bomb to the back of a truck and letting it patrol around without even messing with it. Then it crosses the path of a patrol you couldn't get in line for a normal shot, and boom, you fire a shot, explode that truck, and kill them all. Michael Bay moment. Luckily, all this mayhem is managed with fairly good control. Both keyboard and mouse and controller work fine here. While I like the mouse for more fidelity, it was completely playable with a controller. If there's one thing about this and anything that I really had issues with, it's that the stealth kills are awkward to initiate. Sometimes you're standing next to a dude just slapping the shit out of the E button like it's done something wrong before the bad guy looks at you and then turns, and then suddenly you can attack. It looks and feels woefully janky at times. Additionally, even on easy, enemies take a massive number of shots and live with your non-sniper weapons. I get that it's about you as a far-off death-dealing delivery man, but when you pepper someone's forward face with enough bullets to coat a Confederate ironclad, then the dude gets back up, it's just a bit bothersome. While the single-player campaign is a blast, co-op and multiplayer continue on here as well. Co-op, of course, allows you to jump into a level with any other Sammy Do-Death and take out enemies together working as a team. While I noticed no real difference in difficulty at all, or more enemies, the bonus of having another person there allows for you to do different things. But there's also a weakness, and that's more stupid people traipsing around the fucking forest that can alert patrols. Multiplayer itself is a series of basic modes that allows for up to 12 snipers to leap into 6 custom maps to battle it out. They also have promise that while extra campaign and weapon content is in the paid-for season pass, multiplayer and its modes and anything related to that will be free and given to everyone. Fun factor. Yeah, it was fun. Listen, there's a lot of rough spots in Sniper Elite 4, and sadly, many of them pop up at the worst times. That being said, there's almost nothing as rewarding as sneaking into a conveniently crawl-high bush and lining up a long-distance shot on some dude enjoying his coffee, or turning one of the too smart for his britches leaders into Senor Mumbles with a well-placed jaw shot. Epic stuff. So as you guys know, I rate games on a buy, wait for sale, rent, or never touch it again rating scale. This is actually a wait for sale. Listen, I like the game, but its cost matched with various little issues that appear here and there, and the fact that honestly a game not made for the past gen, but just currently looking the way it does and having those issues bothers me a bit. Additionally, while there's a number of difficulties to pick from and side missions to do, you can blow through the game if you're skilled enough, and it's 8 levels in roughly the same amount of time, plus you should get an additional level if you pre-ordered it. Here's the thing. Yes, it does have medals and awards and achievements for leveling up and basically for replayability, but it never quite sat right with me. Really, when you think about it, this is sort of a AAA game in budget shoes, and at least that's how it appears. And unfortunately, some of the issues it has directly impact my fun factor, and of course, as you guys know, that is very, very important. So anyway, that's it for me. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Maybe check out Reddit or Twitter or Patreon. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. You can always check out the Amazon affiliate links that we have there too. That helps the channel. Peace out, and enjoy the rest of your week.